Hi, my name is Angelina Rodriguez, and I'm reading the Bible out loud to you in a way that's easier to understand. We are in the book of Genesis, and I am reading chapter 38. At the time, Judah left his brothers and went down to stay with a man of Adullam named Hiram. There, Judah met the daughter of a Canaanite man named Shua. He married her and made love to her. She became pregnant and gave birth to a son, who was named She conceived again and gave birth to a son, and he named him Onan. She gave birth to still another son and named him Shelah. It was at Kezib that she gave birth to him. Judah got a wife for his firstborn, and her name was Tamar. But Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the Lord's sight. So the Lord put him to death. Then Judah said to Onan, "Sleep with your brother's wife and fulfill your duty to her as a brother-in-law to raise up offspring for your brother." But Onan knew that the child would not be his, so whenever he slept with his brother's wife, he spilled his seed on the ground and kept from providing offspring for his brother. What he did was wicked in the Lord's sight. So the Lord put him to death also. I'm not even going to break that down. I'm pretty sure you know what is happening. And I don't understand what, I guess they didn't know genetics. And he said, well, the son won't be mine, but it would be his because it's his sperm, his seed. But the laws were weird back then. So because she's married to somebody that's dead, whom is his brother, and if he sleeps with her and gives her a son, then it's his dead brother's son? That makes no sense. We think we have said to his daughter Tamar, "Live as a widow in your father's household until my son Shelah grows up." For he thought, he may die too, just like his brothers. So Tamar went to live in her father. After a long time, Judah's wife, the daughter of Shua, died. When Judah had recovered from his grief, he went up to Timnah to the men who were shearing his sheep, and his friend Hirah, the Adullamite, went with him. When Tamar was told, "Your father-in-law is on his way to Timnah to shear his sheep," she took off her widow's clothes, covered herself with a veil to disguise herself, and then sat down at the entrance to Enam, which is one on the road to Timnah. For she saw that though Shelah had now grown up, she had not been given to him as a wife. When Judah saw her, he thought she was a prostitute, for she had covered her face. Not realizing that she was his daughter-in-law, he went over to her by the roadside and said, "Come now, let me sleep with you." So he's sleeping with his daughter-in-law because she disguised herself as a prostitute and offered herself to him. And he's like, "Yeah, let me get that." And so she's about to become pregnant with her father-in-law's baby because her husband is dead and her brother-in-laws won't sleep with her. "I'll send you a young goat from my flock," he said. "Will you give me something as a pledge until you send it?" She asked. He said, "What pledge should I give you?" "Your seal and its cord and the staff in your hand," she answered. So he gave them to her, and she became pregnant by him. And she left. After she left, she took off her veil and put on her widow's clothes again. Meanwhile, Judah sent the young goat by his friend the Adullamite in order to get his pledge back from the woman. But he did not find her. He asked the men who lived there, "Where is the shrine prostitute who was beside the road at Enam?" "There hasn't been a shrine prostitute here," they said. So he went back to Judah and said, "I didn't find her. Besides, the men who lived there said, 'There hasn't been any shrine prostitutes here.'" Then Judah said, Let her keep what she has, or we will become a laughing stock. So she stole some of his stuff when he slept with her. He committed adultery. And prostitution, like he did a whole bunch of sinning, okay, with this woman. They both sinned together. She deceived him. They sinned together in many carnal ways. And she became pregnant, and then she took off her disguise. But while she was leaving him, before he had a chance to notice, he had taken some very, very important things that only his people would recognize. And he didn't report them as stolen because he would have to admit that he committed prostitution with this woman to everybody if he had told them, oh, well, how did she steal it? So she got him real good. So we won't become a laughing stock. After all, I did send her this goat, but you didn't find her. After 3 months later, Judah was told, your daughter-in-law, Tamar, is guilty of prostitution, and as a result, she is now pregnant. Judah said, bring her out and have her burned to death. As she was being brought out, she sent a message to her father-in-law. I am pregnant by the man who owns these. She said, and she added, see if you recognize whose seal and cord and staff these are. Judah recognized them and said, she is more righteous than I, since I wouldn't give her to my son Shelah, and he did not sleep with her again. When the time came for her, there were twins in her womb, and she was giving birth. As she was giving birth, one of them put out his hand, so the midwife took a scarlet thread and tied it on his wrist and said, this one came out first. But when he drew back his hand, his brother came out, and she said, so this is how you have broken out? And so he was named Perez. Then his brother, who had the scarlet thread on his wrist, came out, and he was named Zerah. It gets more and more interesting, doesn't it? So she was forgiven instead of being burned at the stake for committing. Stay tuned for chapter 39. I will be reading tomorrow. And if you want to catch up on the rest of the story, all you have to do is find me at Jesus is a DJ, all one word. And you can listen to the rest of the chapters of Genesis, or you can just keep going from here. Doesn't matter where you start, as long as you just start and never stop. Don't forget to like and subscribe.